Welcome to Live from My Office, done actually live in my office at the time we record it. I'm live and I'm in my office. I hope that clears up any confusion about how I came up with the really snappy title. It's presented by Team Hochberg and David Hochberg. Call them up at 855-56-DAVID or jump online at 56david.com and he'll give you all the information you need about incredibly low interest rates, and they're not going to last. Meanwhile, today, it's nothing but doctors. Dr. Ian Smith and Dr. Kevin Most. They both will be joining me in a moment. Want to remind you to subscribe to Live from My Office everywhere you get your podcast, and drop me an email about anything, questions, answers, whatever the case may be, to thecochranshow@gmail.com. thecochranshow@gmail.com. I'm going to bring that up again right at the end of this particular podcast because you could be a big winner with that email. All right, look, going to the doctor is not fun. It's never been fun. But maybe it's not so much fun for them either. The good news is we've made incredible medical advancements over what people used to have to do in the last few hundred years. For instance, bloodletting. Bloodletting was a thing. This likely is what killed George Washington. Yeah, he had a really bad throat infection, but maybe they could have saved him if not for the fact that doctors drained 40% of his blood because the thought was fever, bad colds, anything that was troubling you in a serious way could be fixed by getting out some of the bad blood. No, not so much. Animal dung treatments was a thing. That's right, rub a little poo on it. Donkey dung in particular seemed to be quite effective for anything that was troubling you again. Where's the pain on your body? Here's a little donkey dung. The weird thing is there were accidental antibiotics in the donkey dung before anybody knew what that was. And they actually probably did help a few people, again, by accident. What else? How about spinning chairs? Spin in a chair until you pass out. This was used to treat mental illnesses, basic depression all the way to schizophrenia. It doesn't seem entirely effective to me because, no, it didn't work. Heroin was used for coughs. Arsenic was used to treat arthritis. Kellogg's Corn Flakes were even originally developed to stop sexual urges from getting out of control. This is a late 19th century thing when, touching yourself, very, very bad. Have a bowl of cornflakes instead. You can't make it up. How about asthma cigarettes? Asthma cigarettes, because smoking was believed to be healthy. Right on the package, asthma cigarettes to improve your asthma. Somebody in the production line has to say, Bob, does this really make sense? There's even a warning on the package that says, not recommended for kids under 6. But this one might be my favorite, and I don't mean I want the treatment. Tobacco smoke enemas were a medical thing a long time ago. It involved tobacco smoke and a rubber hose, and you can make up the rest. This was for reviving people who had passed out or worse, emergency resuscitation to warm the body by literally blowing smoke up your butt. You wonder where that phrase came from? I'm not blowing smoke up your butt? That's it. It came from an old medical treatment. Oh, thank goodness the doctors don't play that way anymore. Imagine how tough it would be to explain to Blue Cross Blue Shield that you just had yourself a tobacco smoke enema and you wondered if it was in your network and covered. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break and we'll come back. And when we do, Dr. Ian Smith will join us, one of two great doctors on this Live from My Office. I'd like to personally thank presenting sponsor of Live from My Office, David Hochberg and the folks at Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Look, he's passionate about helping listeners, and he's done it for years and years and years. And I trust him with my own family. My sister has done 2 refis with David. My daughter is about to do her refi on her first home with David. And also that ne'er-do-well, that drifter from town to town that, John DeCoste from the Steve Cochran Show. He helped John and his family enhance his credit, refinance a previous home, secure the financing on his new home. Point being, if I'm kicking all of the people I care about to David Hochberg, well, then I think you can trust him. You can trust what I'm talking about. I've had great experiences. Is he loud? Of course he's loud, but he's loud because he cares. Here's how you get started. Go to 855-56-DAVID. That's the phone number. Pick up the phone and call them and talk to them. The website is 56david.com. You can refinance to pay off debt that you might have. You can ask about your student loan situation, reverse mortgages to help you or your parents with housing challenges, buying a new home. Again, the bottom line is this. I trust him, and I think you should too. Just don't let him in your house for too long. It's David Hochberg and the great team he's assembled at Team Hochberg, presenting sponsors of Live from My Office. My friend Dr. Ian Smith joins me, and a bonus, look at this, we're Zooming. How many of these Zoom calls have you done in quarantine? About 1,000?
Yeah, my whole tour for my last book in April was all Zooms and Skype and everything else in between. But you know what's interesting is that it started off kind of rough.
Yeah.
But people got used to technology, and the viewers, everyone was concerned, Steve, that the viewers would not be receptive to something that didn't look so beautiful in the studio.
Sure.
And the viewers were like, listen, we get it. You're not in the studio, you're at home. We just want the content.
We were laughing too before we got started because I'm my own engineer and I was trying to figure out how to hear you and see you. And it's just a whole different world. And, I'm not, you've known me forever. I am the furthest, I tried to say, thing from diva, but this is a different world.
It is. And you know what? It's a very equalizing world because we all have to do it, right? All of us are struggling. All of us have to figure it out, except for, the big guys like Fallon and Kimmel. Those guys have like teams at their house. But, I turned one of my rooms into a full studio, basically.
How many books deep are we? How many books?
So, Steve, we are 18 books in.
Wow.
But this is what I'm excited about. My 19th book is very special to me. Let me tell you why. This is what it looks like. It's called The Unspoken. It comes out October 1st. This book is a Chicago book. It is a private investigator who used to be in the CPD as a detective who leaves. And now he goes around this. He has a nice settlement, so he's financially fine. But it goes around the city only taking on select cases.
Ooh.
And he's a golf addict. So it's a murder mystery.
I like it. Tell you what, when they make a movie, remember your friend Steve as the pizza delivery guy or the neighbor that's a little too nosy. That part.
Well, let me tell you, it's been optioned to be a TV series already, so fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Hollywood is fickle, but you never know.
God bless. Now let's talk about TV first.
But you're gonna love the golf reference.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because you know golf, and I love the fact that you have these stories banging around in your head, and now you're writing those as well. Before we jump into TV,
so it's
let me ask you this. What is your method when it comes to writing? Do you write every day, even if you're not working on a book, just to stay in rhythm?
I write all my books in my head first. So I don't do a traditional outline. A lot of authors will outline a book, plot it out. I don't do that. Every day, I'm always writing in my head, like, where is the character going? What does the character look like? What's the story arc? What is the character arc? So all these things are bubbling in my head. When I feel like I have it about 70% baked, like I know where I'm starting.
Yep.
I know the midpoint. I know who did it at the end. Then I sit down and write. And that makes it easier for me, Steve, because it's not like I'm sitting at a blank screen trying to create it.
Yep.
It's already here. I'm just letting the ideas flow out of my head, into my fingers, into the computer. So that's how I write. And I'm a zone writer. So I'll get in a zone, Steve, where I could write 10 pages in a day. I mean, because it's flowing. It's like sports, where they say, when Jordan was Jordan, he was in the zone.
Yep.
Where they, and golfers say that. Golfers say they're in such a zone that the cup looks like it's 12 inches wide because it's just like they can't miss it. So I'm a zone writer.
Yeah, I've never had that thing where the cup looks 12 inches wide. How about you?
Yeah. No, I haven't. But man, would that be one special day if I felt that?
Right? It'd be fantastic. All right, now here's the jump to TV. We got some exciting news. Dr. Ian Smith was a coveted guest on The Doctors for a long time. Well, they've decided they want him to run the whole show. So last week I found out you are now going to host The Doctors. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. It's, I've come to learn, I knew it before, but this confirms things come to you when you're not looking for them.
Right. That's very
I'm
true.
very content. I have a great life. I've been very blessed. I love my family. We're doing great. Um, I love my career. I'm busy, as you know already, but this just came to me. I wasn't looking for my own show. They just texted me out of nowhere and said, "Hey, you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So it's really exciting, Steve. I've been doing this for a long time, as you know. It's just me, so it's my show basically, but it's not going to be just me. I'm going to have other doctors come on, other experts, because I want to produce a show, Steve, that is really an important voice for America right now. I want to give people scientifically based information. I want for people to feel like they're being encouraged and supported. I want to try to answer questions. I really want people to feel uplifted. People are scared, they're nervous, things are uncertain, and there's no voice right now in the media that people feel like it's comfortable and reliable. And I want to be that voice for them.
September 21st is the premiere. Now, what you're talking about rings true with me as well. Look, we've both been blessed. We've done okay. And it's nice to be in a position where you don't have to worry about taking a deal for the money, and you're taking this on because you want what you say to matter and you want it to live on. So I understand the theme's going to be take your power back. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the idea basically is so many people feel helpless. Helpless. No one really understands the virus completely. No one knows what the protocols should be completely. Some schools are open, some schools aren't. Some schools are allowing sports, some aren't. So there's all this confusion. We want people to feel like, to some degree, you can take your power back. You can take your power back when it comes to your health, to your weight, to your stress, right? So many people are stressed out. Rates of depression are through the roof, suicides up, domestic violence is up. All these things are happening because people really are at wit's end. And so I want to empower people to feel like they're in control again, and that they're going to see there's going to be an end to this virus, and their lives are going to be great. And so it's all about taking your power back.
And in taking your power back, fear is a big motivator for people to either do nothing or do more. How do you get them to do more?
Well, because people have to think about how to make the best of a tough situation. My whole thing during this pandemic, Steve, was listen, there's certain things that I am not in control of. I'm just not. But there's certain things I can control. I can control how productive I am. I can control how focused I am and towards my goals. And so I'm encouraging people, hey, try to get those projects done. We all have 6 projects around the house or things we say we want to try that we never do it. This is the time to do it. Most of us are at home, right? Most of us have a lot of flexibility. So now is the time to really focus your energy on something that you can be productive with and show some kind of results. I think that will help a lot of people.
What about the format? You're doing the format a little differently?
Yeah, we're changing the format. It's going to be faster paced. I want to also do some things that aren't hardcore medicine. I want to tell good stories, right? Like I want to do a segment called The Pivot. And that segment is about people who make a pivot in their life, a pivot in their career. I think that what all of us like are good stories. People like good stories.
Sure.
And so I want to tell good, positive stories. And the other thing is, I want people to walk away. Sometimes medical shows can become too esoteric, too specific, too medically. I want to be able to do a show that every day you feel like there's something you can change in your life that's going to improve it. That's my goal.
Well, see, that to me is what every patient should walk out of every doctor's office with, a feeling like something was accomplished. So you're talking about getting off the air and saying, yeah, I feel like we helped people or we inspired them today. I get that. That's great.
That's the whole purpose. And we want to make people have some fun too, by the way. People need to laugh a little more, right? We've been so caught down and bogged down in the misery of this virus. I want to have some fun on the show too. I just don't want it to be straight, doctor, you won't see me in a white coat. It has to be accessible, right? People want to feel like you're with them. And I am with you because I'm nervous like everybody else. And I'm, out there wearing my mask. We're all in this together. That's the thing about this pandemic is it really should be a unifier, not a divider, because we all are in this together to try to make this thing work and go away.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because Dr. Fauci, who I believe is a national hero, he came out the other day and said he is stunned by the division and the dissent that's been, kind of uncovered, I guess would be the word, buy all of this. I certainly feel the same way. I don't know how we can't all be like when Pearl Harbor was attacked, we were unified as a country. After 9/11, even if it was only for 90 days or so, even in Washington, we were unified. What happened here?
That's a great question. I think I've thought about this very hard, by the way. I think this is what happened because I remember 9/11 very well. I actually was in the air during 9/11, so I was one of the planes they thought was a rogue plane. But I think really, Steve, what's happened is medicine is so inside baseball. It's so esoteric, and it's difficult for lay people to understand science and pathology and disease. It's just hard. And
Sure.
so it's hard for the layperson to wrap their head around this is how viruses act, this is what pandemics are, and these are the steps you must take in order to squash the pandemic. I think people, because they can't see it, they can't see the virus, they can't smell the virus. So to them, it's not a real thing. I really believe this. And I think that what's happened is the reason why Fauci and a lot of medical people like myself have been so confused by the divisiveness is because we see it just in terms of the scientific facts. That's all we see it as. And what the doctors have to understand, public health care people, they have to understand that the layperson doesn't see just the science. They see lost jobs, they see kids not going to school and they're at home and people are getting on each other's nerves. So the layperson sees a bigger picture, right, of the pandemic, whereas doctors say, oh, this is the diagnosis, this is the treatment. So it's really about a mindset adjustment for both of us.
See that that's a great point, and that's a much better explanation than I've literally heard from anybody. Because a lot of folks want to write it off as Fox News and Rush Limbaugh told you this was a fraud, so therefore it's a fraud. I don't believe everybody in the country are sheep to that level where they just follow along. But the idea, because wearing a mask, look, nobody wants to wear a mask. I've made this point 1,000 times, but it just ain't that big a deal. Wear it now, end it sooner. And it seems to be the focal point of the anger for a lot of people. This idea, how dare you tell me to wear a mask? And that's really my concern. Your point is so strong and so well taken by me. But my concern is this lack of trust in experts. That's not a good path for us to be on.
That is very, very dangerous. Listen, we're going to do a segment on the doctors where we're going to take the globe and we're going to spin the globe and we're going to stop at different parts of the world and we're going to show you guys the measures they took and how it affected the decreasing rates of the cases in those countries and cities. We're going to show you guys that because if you don't believe us, believe the world, right? The world can't all be wrong, right? That's my point. So, but yes, Steve, you're right. It's very concerning that we are experts and these people have spent their entire lives studying, researching, and then you don't want to believe them. At the time that you most need them, you're not believing them.
Right.
And this is what they trained for. It's very frustrating for doctors, trust me.
And the worldview of it is a good point because even if you buy into some sort of anti-Trump conspiracy, why would they be engaging in that in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, and everywhere else in the world?
It really, some of the things I've heard, which I don't need to repeat, you've heard them too. Some of the things I've heard, I'm like, are people thinking really like forget about level of education, forget about level of sophistication. Sometimes my grandfather used to say, use common horse sense. Like, if this was a conspiracy, why would the world have so many cases? Well, who's the conspiracy? Is it a conspiracy from the aliens? Because everyone's affected. I mean, listen, Italy, remember how Italy was knocked down?
They were first.
Spain was knocked down.
Yeah, Italy was first to close it up.
They had to close it up. So conspiracy, why? Who? What? I don't know. It's irrational. That's all I can say.
It's frustrating. Yeah, it is. And you can help with the doctors. By the way, the new season of the doctors, season 13, with the host being the handsome, attractive, fine golfer, wearing his Lost Dunes t-shirt, for those of you who are taking a look at the video, the author of 18 books and a 19th to come, which I know we'll be plugging. But let me hook you up with some social here. On Instagram, it's at The Doctors TV. On Twitter, at The Doctors. On Facebook, at The Doctors. The website is thedoctorstv.com. And for you, they can find you pretty much everywhere as Dr. Ian Smith in one form or another. You search that and you'll find Dr. Ian Smith to talk about things. Let's talk about weight for a second, because this is such a sweet spot for you. You've helped so many people. Folks have gained weight during this period of time. Some have used it as a great way to lose weight during this period of time. But it always feels like a great motivator as a jump start. How do people get out of the gate? I know you've covered this in several of your books, but how do people get out of the gate with a great start to lose a few pounds in the next couple of weeks?
They have to find their motivation first. You have to identify your motivator. Some people, just as a reflex, say, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to start a plan. That's all, and that's as much thinking as goes. I want to lose 15 pounds, I'm going to start a plan next week. But that's not the way to start. You have to first get your mind in the right place. There's certain things you have to answer. You have to talk to yourself about, are you really ready to do this? Sometimes, most people, not most, but a lot of people start losing weight at the wrong time in their life. They're stressed, they have other domestic issues, work issues, and so their mind is already fractured, and so they can't focus on the plan of what they need to do. And losing weight is not easy, Steve. I'll be the first one to tell you it's not easy. So you really need as much focus as possible. So number one is you got to make sure it's the right time. And in my last book, Mind Over Weight, I don't know, it's somewhere, but in my last book, Mind Over
Nobody's expecting you to find it. You'd have to dig through the other 400 you wrote.
Sorry, I don't have it. But in Mind Over Weight, I start off by saying, let's figure out if you're ready. Then once you're ready, the next thing we must do, Steve, is find our motivation. And all of us, I don't care who you are, we all have motivation. Here's the difference though. Some people, their motivation is more superficial and they can find it easier. For some people, the motivation is really buried and they got to work to get to it. No matter where your motivation is, it's inside. And I try to help you find that motivation. Once you find your motivation, now you're ready to go. But you have to do those two things first, Steve. You have to say, losing weight is so critical for me that I got to give it my all right now. And I am motivated because of X, right? You got to determine the X. The book helps you find your X. And then you find the right plan. That's the third part, by the way, is people go to the wrong plan, Steve. They look at People magazine or whatever glossy magazine and say, oh my goodness, this celebrity lost 20 pounds in this diet. I'm going to do it. No, it doesn't work that way. We all lose weight differently. We all have different access to foods, to workout equipment. So you got to make sure that you find the plan that's going to fit your lifestyle, not what your girlfriend or your boyfriend or someone else, what they followed.
The walking trend that's blown up now because of the fact that people got to get out of the house, I think is great for all of our overall health. But what do you like for cardio? If it's not walking, what do you like?
I like something called HIIT, high intensity interval training. Sounds hard, but it's not hard. What it is basically is you take your normal, whether it's walking or running or jumping rope or full body weight exercise. That means no machines or equipment. And basically you do intervals. So you do an interval of exertion for 35 seconds. Let's take walking. So you walk as fast as you can for 35 seconds. Then you walk slowly for 35 seconds. Then you go back walking fast for 35 seconds. So that's called interval training, okay? And you oscillate from high energy exertion to low energy, high to low, high to low. The research on this is so amazing. You burn more calories, you increase your muscle tone, as well as your cardiac endurance. And here's the deal, up to 24 hours after the workout, you're still burning calories because your body has such a long recovery process that as your body recovers, it needs to burn calories, it needs energy for the reparation, for the repair and the recovery. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I want people to hear what you said there too, because if you are out there walking, it can be as simple as that for the next 35 seconds, which is what, 4 mailboxes as you walk around your neighborhood. Walk hard.
Walk hard, then slow down, walk easy, catch your breath, walk hard again. If you did that for 15 minutes, it would be a better workout than walking 4 miles at a slow, steady pace, because you're challenging your body, and that's what's causing you to increase your metabolism and burn those calories.
What about lifting weights? Big deal?
Big deal for 3 reasons. One, when you lift weights, or resistance training as it's technically called, they could be dumbbells, they could be bands, resistance bands, same thing. But when you do that, you're increasing your lean muscle mass. When you increase your lean muscle mass, you actually can raise your metabolism, because lean muscle I don't want to get too scientific, but lean muscle requires more calories to live. And so when you eat those foods, some of those calories get right into your muscle to maintain it. So see, you can burn calories better with more lean muscle mass. The other reason, Steve, is because lifting weights is very good for your stability, right? A lot of people, as we age, we start falling and tripping because our muscles are out of balance. Our muscles have atrophied, and we need to be able to get that back up again. So that's another reason. And the last reason why lifting weights is research has shown that it's great for your blood pressure and it's great for blood flow to your body.
The balance piece of that and the core piece of that, you and I know this from golf. You can get a bad back really quickly, but you can also help your bad back really quickly if you do that kind of strength move. You like crunches?
I do like crunches. You have to be careful with crunches because people do them. A lot of people do them wrong, and you can really hurt your neck. Yeah, you got to be careful. There are tons of things you can do. If you can't do the correct crunch, you can do lots of other things that are equally effective. But people hurt their cervical vertebrae, their neck, their spinal column in their neck because they are pulling and tugging, and that's not the way to do it.
What's your favorite ab workout? And by the way, you're on a different plane than the rest of us. So give me your workout and the average workout.
I have a 7-minute workout I do, ab workout. I do leg lifts, old-fashioned leg lifts I learned when I was a kid, right? And basically you take your legs, you lift them about 3 inches above the ground and hold it for 35 seconds. Put it down, hold it. Leg lifts are great, and you feel that tension right in your core. I also like to do something where, next time I come on, I'm going to demonstrate some of these, but where you lay down and you take your legs and you try to lift you lay flat on your back, you try to lift one leg at a time and try to touch it with the opposite hand.
Okay.
It's a great exercise. So those are probably two of my favorite things to do because they really focus on your core.
The Doctors, the hit syndicated series.
Check your local listing, September 21st. I want to say before we go, I'd like people, if you have ideas that you want to see on the show, or you have some experts you think are great experts, please hit me on my Instagram at Dr. Ian Smith, spell the doctor out, I-A-N Smith. Send me a direct message or a DM and say, Dr. Ian, this would be a great idea. And I'm going to filter all these to my producer. We're going to try to get as much on air that you, the people, want answers to. It's about you guys, not about me.
It's going to be great. And I'm glad that the TV producers, at a time you weren't expecting it, called you and said, hey, do you want to? And you said, yeah, I do. He'll keep writing the books, and he'll keep appearing on live from my office whenever he has time. I really appreciate the time. You know that. And thanks for being on.
Steve, I enjoy our friendship, and we're going to the golf course, my friend, before winter hits.
Let's go now.
Okay.
Live from my office would not be possible without the help of great partners like Team Hochberg, and specifically David Hochberg. I've known David for a long time. Some people think that I may have bailed him out of prison at some point. No, it wasn't me. But David Hochberg's had a very interesting career as well. He's done a lot of different things, been successful at all of them, but I think this is the niche because for many, many years now, he's been helping listeners get the most out of their homes, whether it's a financing of a new home, a refi, helping out with something like a reverse mortgage. Look, he knows the money stuff that you and I and most people glaze over about. Now, how do I know that? Well, because I use David Hochberg. I've used him before. I'd use him again. He helped me with a refi of a home equity loan. In addition to that, he's working with my daughter on a refi of her first home. And my sister's used him twice. Good enough for my family, you bet. And my friends, too, like John DeCoste. And by the way, a million other people who worked with me at WGN. Just about everybody there at one point or another consulted David Hochberg for help in regards to maximizing the value of their home and maximizing their money, because he knows this stuff. And don't lose sight of the fact that your credit could be enhanced by one of the Hochberg team members. He's got a guy who is so good, he can take you from the front of the limo to the back of the limo in short order with some tricks and tips that are perfectly legal that you would never know about and I would never know about. But again, this individual is part of Team Hochberg. It's David Hochberg, Team Hochberg, making the most of your money, making you feel better, and taking some of that pressure off. You know, the weight of it when you think, look at this monthly payment, especially now in COVID year. So take advantage of David Hochberg. Make sure you pick up the phone. Go to Team Hochberg's website. That's 56david.com. Or you can call him up, 855-56-DAVID. David Hochberg, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com. Dr. Kevin Most joins me, my favorite guest. Uh-oh, did I say that out loud, Doc? A lot of people are going to be upset.
Well, that's okay. They probably deserve to be upset anyway. So tell them to bring their A game if they want to be the number one guest.
That's really it. That's it entirely, right? You want to beat me? Beat me. All right, so we sit here. This is being recorded on Sunday morning, August the 16th. As we sit here this morning, where are we numbers-wise? Is it trending better or worse for Illinois and also for the rest of the country?
Well, Illinois is on a slight uptick, so kind of concerning. The governor is looking at this 4%, 5% rate. We're at about 4.41, I believe, today, if I'm not mistaken. And that's an overall for the state. So if you look in Dupage County, where it's 3.8 or something, but some of the surrounding counties are, Will and Kane, at 5, 5.6. So that's a little bit concerning. Much more concerning downstate in the Springfield and the St. Louis area, where those numbers are trending up, and we have counties down there that are running 10%. Countrywide, we're still in a world of hurt. You're looking at the number of deaths, the number of new cases, and again, we've talked about this numerous times. I'm not a big proponent or fan of chasing the number of new cases. I think we should do them, but don't use that as our barometer as to how well we're doing. I look at, tell me how we're doing with hospitalizations, tell me how we're doing with ICU. So you look at a state like Georgia, where 98% of their hospital beds are full and 93% of their ICU beds are full. That's concerning. We don't see some of these trends changing, and we're right in the middle now of going back to school. So I was cautiously optimistic, I would say, a couple of weeks ago. I'm not as optimistic as I was then.
Well, and the school piece is huge. I want to get to the saliva test, but the school part of this is difficult because there's been no national standard. It affects every aspect of this story and every aspect of our lives. But the school part of this, I think, is extremely difficult because it is all literally left to the local authorities without a lot of guidance. And what does that mean for the medical side?
Yeah, and part of that is good and part of it is not good. In other words, leaving it down to the local level is something that we've talked about in the past. When we look at, when the governor of Illinois first did this is how we're going to look at COVID and we're going to break the state up into 4 regions. Well, he quickly realized that it comes down to much more local than it does 4 big regions. Same thing with the school districts. So bringing it down to the local school district is great for them to make a decision, but we should be giving them some guidance as far as what they should do, how they should do it. And for the medical field, how is it? It's gonna stress the system in a different way. If a kid has symptoms, they're going to be sent home, and then they're going to say, in order for you to come back, you need to have the test. Well, the test that we have right now, a couple things. One, if you do the test going to a commercial lab, it could take 14 days before it comes back. 2, if you really push it and try to say, hey, I want to get in on one of the hospital-based tests where we can get the results back in 15 minutes or 24 hours, that's going to put stress on us in the hospital system because we're concerned about testing people who are coming in for surgery, testing people who are coming into the hospital, and it's going to stress that system because we're running low on reagents already without that stress.
Parents are trying to be optimistic about this to a large degree and saying, look, along with the bonus family time we've had, this is an opportunity for really focused learning for the kids, but it's incredible stress on the parents as well. I don't want to stress parents out even more, but we now know that kids are not only not immune from this, they seem to be right in the target line if they're exposed. What do we know there?
Yeah, if you look at the age group 10 to 19, that's a sweet spot for this virus right now. So we know that kids are getting this, but we don't see the symptoms that bad in kids. That being said, they're a vector to the vulnerable population, so we have to be careful. And now, don't get me wrong. As far as schooling, parents are not trained to be teachers. Parents are trained to be parents. So the importance of the professional teacher is very high. They're the ones that identify learning disabilities. They're the ones that identify abuse and neglect. They're the ones that know how to teach a child with autism so that they can be, great citizens in the future and very productive in society. So we can't discount the impact that a teacher makes on a child. And we also can't overlook not every household has a computer for each kid. Not every household has high-speed internet.
Right.
So we're really doing a disservice to the kids if we're going to have them all at home. That being said, we have to be safe as we roll them back. So this is a decision I'm glad I don't have to make, but boy, I would have hoped that we would have spent the last 6 months trying to figure it out instead of doing a fire drill now, 2 weeks before school starts.
And as you said, even though symptoms might not be as bad if a kid gets sick, they have, as far as we know, the similar contagion that could affect anybody, including a teacher with asthma or a teacher with pre-existing conditions who might only be in their 20s or 30s.
Absolutely. How about the bus drivers? How are we going to get these kids to and from school?
Yep.
How about those in the cafeteria that are serving the meals to the 22 million kids who rely on a healthy meal for their nutrition that they may not even get at their home? So we're talking about the kids and how we're going to try to protect them. We have to realize that they are around a vulnerable population while they're in this setting. And I'm sorry, kids are kids, and it's interesting. We're looking at kids saying, "Boy, how are we going to tell the 7 and 8 year old to wear a mask and to behave and to social distance?" And I get more concerned about the teens and adolescents because of peer pressure and things along those lines. And then all you have to do is turn on the news every night, and you're going to see what's going on in colleges right now as kids are coming back, and the thought of wearing a mask is, almost laughed at, it seems. So, for us to put a lot of reliance on kids without any good direction and supervision, we are going to be in a world of hurt.
It's more of a big picture question, but the great Dr. Fauci said, I think in an interview as recently as yesterday, as of when we're taping this, he's amazed at the divisiveness of coronavirus and the arguments that go on about it. I guess I'm less so because I've been dealing with politics for as long as I have. But do you share that? Sometimes just you're astonished about, well, how are we not all together on this?
Oh, 100%. And it's interesting. People say, well, it's not going to affect me. And therefore, I don't think it's real. I'm sorry. When it affects your grandparent, are you going to be angry? Are you going to, when you lose a friend? And we're learning more about this virus all the time. If you read the paper today, what's the big focus right now with a lot of college football is the cases of myocarditis, which COVID affects the heart, causes inflammation of the heart. And if it's severe, causes heart failure. So you took a promising student athlete, put him in an environment where he could catch a disease that potentially will not only ruin his career as an athlete, but more importantly, really impact him going forward potentially for the rest of his life. So we do need to take a look at the big picture, and I can't believe we are not all in this together. It blows me away. We were more in it together in 1918 when they wanted to hide the fact that this was going on because of the war. We were more together then than we are now.
It's not important, I guess, but I wonder if we are more selfish now than ever and more self-centered, or are we just more aware of it because of social media? Like I said, the answer doesn't really matter, but it's part of the discussion.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a combination of the two. We are, as a society, very, I don't want to say selfish. We could say selfish, or we could say blessed. We're very fortunate to live where we live. We're very fortunate to have what we have, but we have to realize that we might have to have some sacrifices to protect that for the future. And it's unfortunate that we don't accept that.
What amazes me, too, is the lack of respect we have for experts, which seems like a very recent thing. And it's not just medicine. It's anything I disagree with in society now. That's probably not true. How do I know it's not true? I saw something on Fox, or I read something on Facebook. And yet at the same time, you're not getting on a plane and saying, hey, I know how to fly this. I saw a video on YouTube. Or, you're calling a plumber because you need something fixed because you don't know how to do it. you're not trained in the same way we talked about teachers to understand what this condition is, what it can do, and what we should do because of it. So why question the science? I don't understand how people stop at I'm right, they're wrong.
Yeah, you hit it spot on. I am so disappointed in our lack of respect for individuals like Dr. Fauci. We should be touting him. We should be lauding him, thanking him, doing everything we can, and listening to what he says as a voice of reason and a voice of science and a voice of data. The flip-flopping back and forth, lack of leadership. No, if you're going to be a leader, then you lead by example. So we really need to start looking at that. And it's so disappointing. And who knows where we would have been if we would have said, Dr. Fauci, you are going to be our expert. General so-and-so, you are going to be our logistics person. Tell us what to do in this country to minimize the death, pain, and suffering from this illness. If we would have done that 5-6 months ago, I'm not sure where we'd be today, but I'm sure we'd be in a lot better place. Yeah,
and that's how America has always done it. Our best and our brightest lead the way, and now it has not been the case. We do have some good news this morning, and that is that I think it's a team at Yale are pretty confident they've come up with a test that is non-invasive and is a saliva take. Is that right?
Yeah, and this is interesting. Any kind of studies like this take money. Not only is it the thought process for putting it together and doing the testing. And when you look at this, it's usually like, oh, this was funded by the NIH or this was funded by the Gates Foundation. This one was actually funded by the NBA Players Association. So how about that?
Right. They had a need to get basketball back on the court in the NBA, so they paid the money to see if they could get this done, and they did.
Correct. And two things really cool about it. One, they went to Yale. All right. If you want to go with the smartest, you go with the smartest, and you go to a Yale or a Duke or a Northwestern or University of Chicago. So they went to a high-quality institution with bright minds. The reason I say it that way is they did not go to a private company that would say, sure, we'll do this because we really want to cash in on this, because if we can do it, boy, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. Instead, what Yale did is we said, okay, we know that the virus survives in the saliva for a long time, so we don't need that type of preservative. We don't need a special swab because we're not going back into the nose to get it. So they minimized this down to about a $4 cost. So even with all the handling and everything, this test could be a $10 test. And you've seen in the paper there have been places that have charged $1,000 for COVID testing. So the other thing that's cool about it, it's saliva. So it's very non-invasive, simple self-collection, and no needs for special containers. Probably the thing that I think is the most amazing, and I'm so proud, I wish I went to Yale because I'd be so proud of them right now, is that they made this open source. And what open source means is Yale says, anybody who wants to use this can use it. You don't have to pay us anything. We'll give you the instructions. You develop it in your lab. Here's what we have found. So you take a person or a company that could have potentially, monetized this for big, big dollars. And yet Yale said, no, we're doing this for the good of society. We'll share with you all our trade secrets, everything we've learned. And by the way, we can do about 90 of these in 3 hours. And that's a great turnaround time. And that's the initial, run at it now. I assure you that they are working at it to figure out how they can do 300 in 3 hours. So kudos to Yale, kudos to the team, to the NBA players for doing this. And it could be a game changer because these days of 15-day turnaround times for test results are, I hate to say it, but they're essentially worthless.
Yeah, you can't have that. So how realistic is to take it from 0 to 60 where that would be the go-to test if that's the path we're on?
When you hear the individuals from Yale, they say that labs and universities could have this up and running in weeks. So, in other words, they, I think, have hardwired enough, and they have already done all the tests that everyone's going to be saying, wait a second, this is a brand new test. What about? No. They've already done the tests that have compared the nasal swab with the saliva. In other words, they took individuals. They did a saliva test and a nasal test. They both test negative. Great. They both test positive. Great. One test positive, one test negative. Oh, we have to look at that. So it has very high sensitivity and specificity comparable to the nasal rate. So they've already done that testing. So the test is essentially ready to go. Now it's just developing, taking the cookbook from Yale and putting it into labs and hospitals across the country. So I think you'll see a lot of this going on here in the next couple of weeks. And boy, it could be a game changer for schools. Forget about professional sports because, they're, in my opinion, they're down the list as far as vaccines and who should be tested, although we need them for our sanity. But we really could make sure we're testing nursing home workers a lot more often and a lot quicker, individuals in hospitals, something that's going to make an impact on all society.
Earlier this week, the great Vladimir Putin, he said sarcastically, claimed that Russia had won the space race of vaccines, that they had a vaccine that was good to go, that it was given to one of his daughters, and that she had recovered quickly. This, we know because they admitted it, wasn't even exposed to third phase testing of vaccines, which is standard operating procedure. And then we haven't heard anything about it since. First off, I don't know why Putin thought this would be a great thing to talk about. And secondly, has it gone away, or are we going to hear more about it?
Oh, no, you'll hear more. So, they really rolled the dice here. So just to go back, a phase 1 study, we're going to take a handful of people and we're going to give them that vaccine. Why? Because we don't know if it's safe. We want to make sure we're not going to harm anybody, but we want to start out small. When that happens and we do okay, maybe 10 people, maybe 15, then we go to a phase 2 where we're giving it to 30 to 50 people. And again, looking at not only is it safe, but is it effective? Does it have a response rate? So the ones in the United States that have gone to phase 3, which there's Moderna has it now, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson ready to go. There's probably 5 or 6 that are ready to go into the phase 3 where we're talking about, 30,000 people. Russia just said, hey, we got such great results in phase 1 and phase 2. We're going to just start mass immunizations. Well, you got to keep your fingers crossed there because, all of a sudden, if you think, wait a second, we got a complication. Wait a second, we find that this happens in phase 3 at that dose. Therefore, we can't do it. You can't undo that. That's why we do these phase 3 studies. For us, we're fortunate to have good partners in pharma because we have many of these companies that are saying, we're pretty confident in our vaccine. We're making doses right now. We'll have 100 million doses, come late this fall. But we're waiting for the results of phase 3 before we would ever expose somebody to a vaccine that we don't know is safe or effective. So you're going to hear a lot more, but you have to remember, they just got all their first doses here in the last couple of weeks. They'll get a second dose here, anytime now. And then we'll start to see if their rates drop off. But again, it's data coming out of Russia and how much can you trust? So time will tell, but it's a big roll of the dice, that's for sure.
Speaking of data, how data is distributed by hospitals to the CDC is a big deal. It's a huge time suck. It takes a tremendous amount of time, and then that data has to be culled and collated and figured out and summarized and analyzed and all those things. And now the White House recently announced they want all the data sent to them first, which means a whole change in your systems. I don't get too deep in the weeds here, but you guys have plenty to do in the medical community as opposed to falling prey to politics here and having to redo systems, right? Is that accurate?
No, yeah, you're spot on. 1970, the CDC, you really think about this, is only 50 years old, but 1970, the CDC says, wow, we have got to track infectious diseases much more tightly than we are. We will have this repository here. We want everyone to report to it. And every week, something called the MMWR comes out, and it tells us what's going on across the entire country as far as infectious diseases, where they're hotspots, where they're outbreaks, whether it's hepatitis or influenza or rotavirus or anything, MRSA. They have been our go-to. Now, with the decision here of saying, wait, we want this to come to HHS before it goes to the CDC, and we're going to collect the data. two things happen. One, the hospitals, which are overwhelmed already, now have to learn a new process. What do you want? How am I counting these cases? What gets counted here? So we're getting bad data coming in. We're getting inaccurate data coming in. And you don't do that in the middle of a pandemic. If you don't think that the CDC's web or monitoring system is antiquated or needs to be updated, that's fine. Start a long-term process on what you're going to do. But boy, don't change it right now. We use this data for predictive modeling. We use it for a lot of things, and we cannot change this now.
And as we go forward into this, it was 75-ish days left before Election Day. Politics will play an even bigger part of it. How does the medical community ignore the politics to the best of your ability?
We try to as much as we possibly can. We still encourage, exactly what the science and data is telling us. We tell people, let's wear masks. Let's do, physically distance. Let's make sure we're using tests appropriately. We get frustrated, I can tell you. Our goal is to protect and to help the health of our individual patients and those in our community. And it's difficult when you have a competing force that may be saying things or doing things that are not for the good of the public health. So we're trying to keep our chins up. We're trying to work as hard as we can, but it's tough when you're handed an illness that you didn't have a playbook for, and now as you're developing the playbook, someone else is looking at it saying, we'd like to rewrite the playbook, but we're not experts. So those are the things that are frustrating.
What have we missed that we ought to bring up at this point?
No, I think, for kids going back to school, parents, please be just really aware of them and who they're going to be exposed to and who they're going to be around. We have a lot of single income parents in single income homes, single parent homes. So we really have to be careful that we don't put a big financial burden on these individuals, and then also that the kids don't suffer from an educational point of view. They need the exposure to other kids. They need a lot of this, but let's make sure we do it safe.
It's Dr. Kevin Most, Northwestern Medicine, and of course, the fine people at CDH Hospital and all the other associated names that you affiliate with Dr. Most or connected Dr. Most through the years. Thank you, as always, for the great work. Take care of that tender back we discussed off the air. I'll golf for you until further notice.
Perfect. Play well. Hit a ball in the pond for me, will you?
Oh, I actually had that already planned. So, thank you, my friend.
You got to take care.
Hey, every episode of Live from My Office includes a plug for a charitable organization, one that I've either been involved with or heard about that I think you should know about. And like everything else, you want to communicate with me, drop me an email at thecochranshow@gmail.com. Tell me about a charity you think that we ought to be plugging here. This one is called PreventChildAbuse.org. Prevent Child Abuse America is an organization founded in 1972 in Chicago. It's a national group now. There's chapters in every state. And the idea is just what you would think it would be. The healthy development of kids and preventing child abuse before it occurs. It's a wonderful group. Of course, they need your help. And this year, it's a double whammy, right? Because of quarantine and because of COVID, horrible situations at home have gotten worse for an awful lot of kids. It's really a nightmare to even think about. But if you even have a remote notion that child abuse may be occurring, first things first, call the police. But definitely also contact PreventChildAbuse.org. Their resources are amazing. And it's highly rated by Charity Navigator, the great charitable rating site. It rates all the charitable organizations, I should say. Again, the website one more time, PreventChildAbuse.org. All right, before we go, 2 additional notes, and these are important. One, the Trump dump. Here's the deal on the Trump dump. Every day on Twitter, the 100 days remaining in Trump's presidency prior to Election Day, I celebrate those each day by bringing up something he has said or done. This is real news, kids, about something that actually fell out of his mouth or something he believes or something he just did for all of his selfish reasons. Each day on the Trump dump, Send it to any of your friends who are still thinking about voting for him, and see what they think. Share it with others as well. The Trump Dump, again, every day at Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, at Cochran Show. There's a lot more than that there, but that's going on right up until Election Day on November 3rd. And I promised you could be a big winner, so let's do that. Steve Shapiro, my pal from Apt Electronics. Matter of fact, the brothers, the Apt family, they're all great to me, and we've had a great relationship for years. You know the greatness of Apt Electronics, really anywhere in America, but certainly in the Chicago area. And the Apt folks, and particularly Steve, have supplied us with gift cards to give away. And here's the way we're going to do it. I want to make sure that we get as many people listening to Live from My Office as possible. So I want you to send me the names and email addresses of at least 3 of your friends. You want to send more, that's fine. But at least 3 of your friends. Just send those to me at thecochranshow@gmail.com. In exchange for that, I'll send you an Apt gift card. Now, you're saying, well, how will I win? The first 5 in win. So the first 5 people from this episode that email me with at least 3 names of their friends and family, whomever, and their emails, I in turn drop them a note with a link to Live from My Office and say, hey, I think you may like this. Your friend thinks you may like this. And you may be saying, Steve, is this just a blatant plug for your show? Of course it is. But it turns you into a big winner. So again, drop me the name of at least 3 of your friends and their emails to thecochranshow@gmail.com. First 5 in win. And that could be you very soon. And then we'll announce your name next time we do this fine program. Once again, thanks for listening. And don't forget, Dr. Ian Smith and a brand new season of The Doctors premieres 10 a.m. weekdays on WCIU TV, but particularly the new season with Dr. Ian as the host on September 21st. And also thanks to Dr. Kevin Most and all of you for listening and subscribing to Live from My Office.
Live from My Office is a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and follow Steve on all social media channels. Get in touch with us directly with questions or comments about the show by emailing thecochranshow@gmail.com. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.